Hey everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative, and we are going to do a silicone mold today. And I think then once we have the mold done, then we're going to pour resin and see what we can come up with. I don't know if this has ever happened to you where you're watching a video someone else is doing and you catch something that is within their video and you go, oh, that's just giving me an idea. It's not necessarily something they're working on. It's just something you see in their space and an idea comes to you, which I absolutely love when that happens to me. And so this is why we're doing this video, because I saw something sitting on somebody's table and all of a sudden it was like, oh, and I have an idea. Now I have to put on a glove. And you'll understand, I don't want fingerprints on what we're going to be casting. I have this object here. And for some of you, now I'm going to date myself quite a bit on this. When I was growing up, my mom used to put these coasters underneath table legs because some of the tables she had were quite heavy. And she didn't want the runners, I'll say, under, or the rollers that things were on to settle into the rug. So she had these glass pieces that she put underneath her furniture. Okay, just so that we didn't get the marks in the rugs. I happen to have 4 of these that I use in my upstairs living room for a table I have. It's quite heavy. It's got a glass top on it. It's wood, and as much as there's not a lot of wood for this table, this thing is really heavy. Anyway, I had these, and I had seen one of these sitting on someone's tabletop, and I went, oh, you've just given me a brilliant idea. Now, I would normally cast 4 of these because I have 4 of them. However, I don't think enough of my silicone to make 4, so I'm just going to make 1. And I have to admit, yes, I'm being a little frugal. I'm not buying more of this right now because I haven't been using it very often. And I thought for the purposes of this video, I would just do 1. My father-in-law, he actually cut down pieces of wood like this and put them underneath the legs on beds, under tables himself. Like, he used this, which is much more space, right, than one of these. Again, as a way so you didn't get the marks in your floor. And I don't know if any of you have anything like this or something similar on your chair legs, your table legs, your beds. I don't know. But I grew up with this. And I actually thought this was kind of a neat idea too, because it spreads the weight a lot more than what these do, but that's irrelevant. So I just thought I would show you what my father-in-law did, and we still have obviously these pieces of wood around, and it's neat because it saves your rug getting these great big indents, because I don't know about you, but I don't move my furniture a whole lot, and when you do move it, all of a sudden you've got these, holes in the carpet. I don't know how helpful that is. So, having said all that, so we're using the Alumilite because I have just a little bit of the Let's Resin silicone left, but I don't know. It's not going to be enough. Seriously, not going to be enough. And hopefully, I have more of this. Now, as I'm looking at this, my white, okay, it's still pourable. Whew. This stuff, as I said, it's been sitting around for a little bit. I haven't been doing a lot from a silicone perspective. Yeah, we should be okay. I think I'm going to just lay these on their sides so we can get the silicone moving. So we'll let that go. All right, now how are we going to do this? Well, for any of you who have gotten the Let's Resin silicone, you will know that, well, I don't know if with all the brands, the different brands, but the ones I've been getting, and I love these. Kind of wish they'd come out with some square ones. These can be used for doing your silicone with, right? So you just put your item down, you go like this, you fill it up, and wham bam, there you go, which is great. I am going to be using the purple one. I've already, it's big enough and gives me, you know, enough room around the side, which is great. I'm not going to be wasting. I was going to make something using Lego blocks, and then I went ding and remembered I had these. So I just brought these out for you to see, because I've gotten 2 sets of these now because of the silicone I've bought. And I'm trying to think, I'm not even sure what else you get. You probably get gloves and stir sticks and whatnot with it. Now, what are we going to do? I use this tack paper that you put in your cupboards on the drawers, so that, you know, if you need to wipe things up, you can. I've gotten some from the dollar store. I've gotten some from Michael's. I think Home Hardware would probably have these. Home Depot. Home Hardware is a Canadian company here. Anyway, so what I normally do, and I'm going to set that aside, I can deal with that later. Take my glove off. I don't like trying to, everything sticks to these things, so it's not helpful. So what we're going to do is, I've cut it down. It's too big as it is now. I could actually probably cut that down a little bit more. So let's do that. I don't have a marker, but let's cut this down a little bit more. And you get quite a bit of this. I have a big roll of it. As you can see, quite a bit. And I use it in various craft pieces that I want to do. So okay, so that'll be big enough. The reason I have it on here is I want to be able to move this because I'm also going to glue this down so that the silicone doesn't leak out from underneath. I always think it's good to seal these up on the outside. If it were a square, if I were using my Lego blocks, I actually tape it using some of the tape I have around here. Yeah, tape. And I've got some clear tape that I could use as well. So I am just going to glue this up because I don't want silicone running everywhere. So we're just going to place this carefully down here like this. And I'm just sort of tugging at the sides just to make sure it's flat. Being that it's how is this going to work? The bottom will be the bottom. It's not as big of a deal, but if you want to make sure that you don't have any ridges, because you want things flat, right? You want your silicone mold to be flat. So there we have that. Now I'm not going to bore you with the whole glue gun part of this. I've got to be careful here. I don't know about you, but you get too many cords going, and then it's like, okay, be very careful because you don't want to yank anything off your table by trying to do all of this fun stuff. All right, so I bought this glue gun, oh gosh, years and years ago. And I actually had gone to Canadian Tire, which was one of our stores up here in Canada, and a cordless. And you know, I ended up getting rid of it because it wasn't working properly, and this works so much better. I wish I didn't have a cord to deal with, but it works so much better. It takes a while for it to warm up. It's cheap. I can't even remember how much I paid for this. And funny, I was out in the garage one day, and there's one out there as well, similar to this, that has been there forever. It belonged to my father-in-law. And when we bought his house, of course, you know, there was all kinds of stuff that we inherited along with it. And I have an extra one out there. So I have no intentions anytime soon of buying another one of these glue guns. So I am going to let you go. We'll come back once I have this glued down and it is set, because that's another thing you want to be careful about. As I say, putting it on here so I can turn this around. And I'll let you see if unless I'm really lucky. My glue, oh, I make such a mess of this. I did go on the Illuminite website. It's going to take approximately 90 mils to cover this piece up. This stuff sets really quickly, which I really like about it. Technically, you're supposed to wait 24 hours before you do anything. I don't always do that. Yes, I know, slap me on the hands for that one. I don't always do that. And we are going to pour this and go from there and see about making a coaster. I think that'll be really cool. Now, the one thing that has been going through my mind is how good it'll be to have this. Like, glass is glass. Having glass on my rug, I have no issues with that. I'm not sure about putting resin on a rug as such with the kind of weight on it that this is going to have. But having said that, you could use these for other things as well. I also thought about ceramic resin and making them out of that. Again, if it has coloring in it, I don't know whether to put them on the ground without sealing them would be a good idea. And I think you'd want to be really careful about the sealer you put on it as well, because it would be on your carpet or your hardwood floors or wherever. Ceramic might be okay as far as the resin goes. But it's an experiment. I just want to see how they look, and I think you could have some fun, and they could be maybe used for something else too. The other thing that I like about this one in particular is these say made in Canada. Being that I'm Canadian and I'm making stuff here, let me just push that back in. I like that. I like this says made in Canada. Now, one thing I probably would have liked to have done that I haven't done is I really should put this in here and then put the purple on top of it. What do you think about that? Let's do that, because then I can center it better. So let me do that. I didn't even think about that. I wanted to do that. I feel like I'm talking a lot. With being away for a couple of weeks and not doing videos because I had them all pre-done, I feel like I've missed out talking for 2 weeks. So I'm maybe doing a little bit too much of that. All right. So I can kind of see where that is. So we'll place this about. I'll place that there. We still have lots of room because of the tape. So I'll bring this closer to me so I can get this the way I want it. Sit down, basically giving the same space all the way around. All right. It's a little off, I think. Let me just spin it. Yeah, not quite where I want this. And sometimes I will put the piece down in after, but usually I end up just dropping them in, which isn't always helpful. Alrighty then. Okay, I think that'll work. I think I'm pretty good there. So my glue is starting to come out. I'm going to get that glued up, and then I will measure out my silicone. We'll get it mixed up, we'll pour it, and then we'll wait to see how this looks when we're done. Okay, I've got my gluing done. I normally, and you don't have to do this, just what I do, because I'm always concerned about stuff coming out. I've gone around that twice, and then there are a couple of spots that they looked like I had some spaces that I needed to go over so that I could kind of confirm that I'm not going to have my resin going anywhere, or my silicone going anywhere. So I've done it now, and it's solid as I lift things and move things around. The other thing I did was I just put the corners in and bent them down because I was getting caught up on this tape and moving things around. So however you do it whatever works best for you. I could have taped this down so that it wouldn't move, but I didn't think about that. So I just folded the corners over. I have my silicone ready to go. I probably have too much of it, but we'll see how that turns out. Going to be mixing it up in this cup. What I do like about this silicone is the fact that I've got a red and a white, so once it's mixed up, like mixed up, I know that I've got it mixed up because it's all red. So that I do like about it. It is, I think, one of the harder silicones. I wanted to mention to you, I get updates from Let's Resin on a regular basis, and one of the most recent articles that they sent out was in regards to knowing which silicone to use for what projects. I haven't read through that yet. I want to, because I want to understand it better. I didn't realize that there were such differences in silicones as far as, I'll call it the hardness of it. Anyway, I thought that would be a useful article for me to read, and they may have articles on their website, I don't know. I just thought I'd mention it because it came through. It came through on my email. So if you have any, you've kind of wondered about that yourself, you could go check them out, or, check out the email if you happen to get it because you subscribed. I normally don't show doing this, but I guess I'm doing that today. I sort of wish I had some of these plastic cups that were about half the size of what they are. I do have some paper cups and whatnot I could use. Now, we don't have a lot of working time with this again because it sets so quickly, but I have always managed to get it mixed and poured before it starts to set up. Yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time I actually did a silicone mold. I can't even think back that far. So funny how I just, yeah, you've done it, but you can't remember what piece you've done, and then I'm always trying to think ahead when it comes to videos, like what's going to be the next project. I'll tell you that, like, if you don't do this on a regular basis, it can be a challenge coming up with new ideas. And some days it's like, we're just going to do this. We're just going to keep this simple. We're just going to do this quick little whatever. Because I like to keep the videos going, but at the same time, yeah, you've always got to be on your toes thinking about ideas. For sure, for sure, for sure. Alright, so let's get all of this mixed up. As I say, you want to get around the sides and the bottom. And like resin, clean off your stick, a couple of times so that you're not, missing that either. I'm not sure the stick I'm using is the best one, but it does reach the bottom. And I go both ways. I go one way and then I go so clockwise and then counterclockwise, so I can get a good mix going on. I don't know about using my mixer for something like this. And then get right to the bottom. Like this has a bit of a groove in the bottom of it, around the outside. Now, the other thing I have been known to do when it comes to this is, okay, it looks mixed to me, so we're going to start pouring this because, again, I don't have a lot of time on this. And then if I get toward the bottom of this and I notice that I can still see some white, then I'll mix it up a little bit again. Alright. Alright. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm just going to start in the center. I want that air bubble to go away. Go away, go away, go away. Let's do in the center. I've got an air bubble in there. There we go. Good. Hopefully they'll all come up to the top or disappear as we go down. Just move it back and forth. And it's not a big deal. If I have to make more of this, it's not going to be a big deal. Okay, so I can see some of the white in there now. I don't know if you'll be able to see that in here, but we've got some white showing, so I'm just going to mix that up a little bit. Make sure it sets up right. Okay. Of course, I've introduced some more air bubbles into it. And that normally the way, right? Oops, let go of my stick, please. And I think I'm just going to have enough for this. Here's to all these bubbles going away. Apologize for my hands being in the way. Nice thing is I'm not going to clean this cup, I'm just going to get rid of it. Now, in regards to the Made in Canada that's on the inside of this, an easy way to deal with that is once you've made your piece is just to put, you know, a very thin layer of resin on top of it, whether that be 2-part epoxy or UV resin. Like that's the way you could get around that. I'm getting silicone everywhere. Put that back in there for a second. Get it off my hands. Now, what we might do is just help with those bubbles a little bit. Get the silicone off of this. As easy as silicone is to clean up as such, I like getting it off of things, so I think we'll just leave it at that. I don't feel I'm going to need any more, so I want that to soak in and not, yeah, alrighty, good. So we'll just leave that alone. It takes about a half an hour for this stuff to set up. Hopefully that banging isn't too loud for you guys. Let's just go over the top of it. I don't know whether that's advised to do that or not, but it did get rid of a couple of bubbles. Okay, we'll let that degas on its own now. We will leave this for approximately half an hour. And I don't even think it takes that long for this to set up. Like I say, this stuff sets up very quickly, and that's one of the reasons I like it. It's a little more expensive than some of the other brands. I picked this up at Michael's. I've looked at the prices online, and they're a little more expensive if I buy it on Amazon or something like that. So I tend to just go to Michael's when I have something I want to make a mold out of. But yeah, that is where we're at. I will clean up my mess, and I will be back when it's time to take this out of the mold. Okay, we are ready to take this out of its mold. I'll take this off of here. So that's what it looks like on the bottom. Now, I did a good job with my gluing around the side here. I had a couple of tiny leaks here and here, but you know, much better than it could have been had I not glued it. So I recommend that you glue these when you do them. I just think it's a smart thing to do. Okay. Now, one of the other things that I sometimes do is using my, where is that tool? And actually I should say these I think usually come with the Let's resin as well. And they use them for cuticles too. Not these ones are meant for the silicone, but you can get ones for cuticles as well. Because I like to do my own nails, I actually just recently purchased a kit that is used for nails, and it has something similar to this in it. That looks pretty clean around that. That's awesome. I'd like to get this glue off of here in one way or another. I'm going to have to probably cut that. Do it carefully. Let's see. I'm going to be very careful with this X-Acto knife. I seriously do not want to cut myself. There we go. I don't know if you could ever use these in a piece of resin, but yeah, sorry. My brain's just thinking of ideas. Okay, now I'd like to get, yeah, this could be interesting, right? There we go. Just apply it. I wonder if that's why they did the tops of these like this, so you could ply the silicone away from it and have some leverage to push it out at the bottom. might have done that. I kind of wondered what these ridges were at the top for, but that might be something, eh? I mean, I expected it to come out relatively easy anyway. I feel pretty confident it would come out easier if I didn't have the piece in it, but it's coming. Having patience, right? And then, of course, once you get it down there, it comes out easier because this is not as wide as the bottom. So there we have. There we go. Let's get this table coaster out of here. Let go. I love that. It's the suction cup, eh? It's like, just break the seal. Somehow. There we go. Break the seal. That's the ticket. All right. Woohoo. And you know what I really love is that Made in Canada came out really well. I know. It's the small things, right? We've discovered that with me. It's the small things that amuse me. Put that back in there. That back in there. That can go to the side. My little remnants over here of silicone, and there. Now this one obviously had, because it's picked it up, had a slight markings in the bottom. I mean, this has been used, so if you wanted and bought brand new, that would be cool. So it's got a slight marking in the bottom. However, we make it, and if we don't want the Made in Canada and we want to, you know, cover that up, I've got a couple of air bubbles, it looks like, in here, but for what you're going to use it for, I'm like, for me personally, I'm not concerned about that. And I know that if I wanted to, once I had the piece made, I could very easily put a coating of either, as I said, 2-part epoxy or UV resin on that just to cover it up. Okay, so you have that option of it. I like the idea that says Made in Canada, so I am okay with that. We're going to let this sit. I'm going to be good. I'm going to let this sit for at least until tomorrow morning so that it has time to set up. It's not as thick as some of my other molds may have been, so I want to give it some time just to finish setting up. I'm going to just bring this over here because I want to keep the dust out of it. And we'll cover, I'm going to get another cover. This one's way too big for this. But there we are. That's where we're at right now. I'm going to figure out color. I'm going to have to sort of get an idea on how much resin I think this might take because I'm not really sure. And we also may, in this video, I'm not 100% sure, but we may see about casting it with ceramic resin as well. I'm probably more interested in resin than I am ceramic resin, but I guess we'll find out where I'm headed when we catch this video at the next step. We are ready to move on. I actually let this mold sit longer than I had anticipated I would. I decided to, I hadn't slept well the one night, and I was just really tired. So I've given this an extra day, and I took some rest time, which sounds really odd considering I just got back from holidays. But when I don't sleep at night, normally I can function pretty good, but the other night I couldn't. The day came, and by lunchtime I was just, I was done. I decided I would not venture down, and I would just leave things alone and come back to them today. So that's exactly what I have done. Okay, so having an extra day is probably not going to hurt this mold whatsoever. I went through it a couple of different ways that I wanted to fill up this mold, and finally decided that I was going to use these rainbow flakes by Recollections. Got them at Michael's. I'd been eyeing them up, and then I was going to put some glass pieces in, and then I was going to put some sparkles in with the glass pieces. Always a long ordeal. And I finally decided to use those flakes. Now, originally, I was going to use these flakes, and I think these came with some nail things that I bought. And when I was using this color, and when I was trying to mix it in, it wasn't mixing in really well. So I don't know if these flakes that they give you for using on nails are thicker than what the flakes are that we get for the resin. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they weren't really mixing in that well. So I thought, you know what, let's just go with something that's, I would say is technically meant for resin. And, it's obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, I don't know. I'm just getting the feeling that it's thinner, easier to break apart than what those nail ones are. I wanted to use that stuff up, but I guess I'm going to have to find a way of using them in my nail art, and that's okay. Or I'm going to have to just figure out how to break them up really well so that we have it. Now, I will admit there are some lumps. I went around the side and tried to break some of them up, and so it's so-so. But let's just get this poured. I had given some consideration, not a lot, but a little bit of consideration of putting this on my heat mat. But I'm going to let this cure up by itself for the 24 hours. I'm guessing that all silicones will work the same, that it really wouldn't matter what the color of the silicone is that you're putting on it. But I've just decided that I am going to let this cure on its own. I made up 50 mils. I'm hoping it's enough. And actually, I have an idea. If it's not, there's an idea lingering in the back of my head that I would like to potentially give a try to. So let's hope it fills up. If not, I'm just going to kind of keep you in suspense just in case I change my mind, because we know I do that. I know. You're saying, Natalie, really? You change your mind? Yes, I do. All right. Let's clean off our stick. And let's pour this and see. And I mixed this up by hand. I didn't use my mixer. I didn't use my debubbler. I just did this all by hand. And it'll be helpful too, and I'm hopeful that, like, these flakes are relatively light, save the ones that didn't really break up. So I'm hoping these are sort of floating throughout it and not just sinking all to the bottom. Or the bottom. Which will probably look okay even if it does, but I'm kind of hoping it doesn't. That's why I'm sort of moving it around like I am. Because, yeah, there's some pieces in here that are just chunks. So if anyone, uses these flakes on a regular basis, and you have a way, like when they come out of the container, I mean, there's just a chunk of them sometimes. And I'm just wondering if you have any tips or tricks on how to, like, do you break them up, or do you just, like, what do you do? If you have a way of doing it. Thinking I needed to make more. I didn't make enough of this. I do not have enough resin. Yeah, maybe if I'd made 60, I might have been, well, I would have been closer, obviously. And I sort of originally planned to make 60, and then when I was measuring out, well, that obviously didn't happen. But I do have an idea, so I think I'm gonna let this set up, and then I'm gonna bring you back. And no, I'm not going to be using ceramic resin because I know that won't stick to it, so that's not my idea. Just going to move some of these pieces around so they're, we've got some sitting on the top. I'm sure they'll just pull themselves off to the side, right? Because we all know that resin, once it gets moving, it just goes wherever it wants. But I'm hoping that by putting some of these pieces up on the side or up on the top here, that they'll, you know, some of them might just stay where I want them to stay. We can always hope, right? Little remnants I have of the resin out of this cup. Well, that's too bad that I didn't make enough. But, like I say, I have an idea. And what I might, we'll see. Yeah, you'll just have to wait. To see what I end up doing with this. All right. And I used a throwaway cup, so I didn't have to deal with all the little bits and pieces that are left behind from the flakes. So that's handy. Okay. Okay, I may come back to this in about 3 or 4 hours to maybe show you what I'm going to do for the rest of it. It may not be too bad of an idea that I've got for this. So we'll just cover this up. We'll let this sit for a little while. I'll let it get anyway, we'll come back. I'm just going to cover it up. I'm going to leave it alone for now. I'll make sure I continue to work on getting rid of some of those bubbles that are in there. They're not a lot and totally expected because of working with the flakes. We will come back. And I'm liking the idea I've got. So I'll see. I am back earlier than anticipated. I have another project on the go for a client of mine. So I have leftover black, and I have decided that we are going to put it into this piece. I think black will be a nice accent. Now, granted, the time between ending the video and then working on my other project, I started the other project straight away. So my resin will not have set up any, but I am going to drizzle it in. And then maybe what we might see about doing is sort of making a design in it. Not a flower, I don't want to bloom, but we will see what we do with this. So we're just gonna make I'm gonna make a circle with it. Okay, well, a squiggly circle, if you will. This has maybe had a half an hour to sit. I just figured I had it, so I might as well use it. I don't know how full this is going to make this. But I thought I have it, I want to use it, and black and gold goes very well together. So we'll see how high up that gets me. This might be one of those pieces where I don't get it quite filled to the top, but it'll be enough to show you how it will look at the end of the day. It's kind of interesting that it's just sitting there. I wasn't quite expecting it to do that. So I think in some cases with this two-part epoxy, it really doesn't take a long time for things to sort of start setting up, does it? So let's get the rest of this out, and then maybe we can make some I'm thinking like, well, how well a geometric design would work is beyond me, but we can maybe see about, even if we just swirl it. So it's filled it up fairly decently. So you know what we might do, just because of how it's looking, is just sort of follow the circle, if you will. Let's sort of follow it. And then we'll have to see if it will do anything on its own. Now I want to kind of be careful because I really don't want to be pulling up the flakes. It reminds me of licorice. It's going to be really interesting to see if this falls down at all, because in a sense of me says it's just going to sit there. Almost like ribbon or something's been put into it. So I'm trying to get over to the edge as far as I can with this black. Yeah, it looks like it's like I've just dropped it in. Yeah, I've got a big piece of that flake right there. Well, we're just going to leave that, and we're going to see what it decides to do on its own. I know I'm usually really tempted to go in there and just start messing around with things, but I'm not going to do that. Now, because we are so close to the top here, but I've got some flakes sticking out, I can almost see myself putting UV resin over top of this. Just clear UV resin, nothing else with it. Just so we've got a smooth bottom on that. But yeah, that's not sinking at all. And I guess I would have thought a little bit that it would go down. So we'll have to see what it decides to do. I'm going the wrong way with it. What it decides to do over the next little while, if it just sort of sits there so we get to see some of the clear through the black. We're just going to leave that alone now. I won't be doing anything else to it. And we will come back when that is cured. And then I'm thinking, like I said, there's not a lot of room. I hate taking things on and off, but there isn't a lot of room. So what I might do while it's still sitting in the mold is just, do the layer of UV on top of it. So when we get back, we'll have a look-see at it and decide, if the best bet is just to let it sit in there, put the UV resin on it, cure it up, get it out, cure it up some more, and yeah, see what it's going to look like. Actually, I think, well, fingers crossed, I'm hoping it looks somewhat decent when it's all said and done, and we will see. 24 hours, we'll be back, and we'll go from there. And welcome back. We're ready to I think we're going to take this out. So I had a couple ideas, and actually, you know what? That is a little lower than I want it to be. I need 1 second, and then I'll return. I'd like to say I think I'm officially back now. All right. I need to just get a couple little things out of the way as I throw things around as per usual. I was thinking, when it came to this piece, and I know I've got my UV light out here, which you can't really see all that well, which that's fine. So originally what I was thinking was we would fill this up with UV resin, set it up, just to finish it off, because it's not quite up to the top. And lifting it up this morning, I've got maybe 1/8 of an inch that were from the top of this, okay? The other thing I've been thinking about while I was outside with my dog was so we talked a little bit about putting this, by itself on your carpet, on your hardwood floor, and if that would be a good idea or not. And as I say, depending on what you put in it, I for myself would have a little bit of a concern having it directly on your carpet, directly on a wood floor, ceramic, whatever. I actually have some linoleum floors in my house. And so that got me thinking a little bit, what could we do? And that's where I sort of started thinking about foam and felt that we could cut out and put on the bottom of these. Similar to, I've got these little things that we put on the bottom of our chairs. They're felt, they're about, I'd say 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick, so that they, if you're on a wood floor, the chair can't scratch the wood floor. So that kind of got my mind going a little bit. What if we were to use something like felt or foam and put that on the bottom of it, so that if we were using mixed mold or something like a ceramic resin of some kind, or even from a resin perspective, that, there'd be some protection between this and the flooring, whatever that might be. So I like the idea of having something like this, and I'm just going to sort of place that on there so you can see. When we get it out, we'll look at that more closely, but that has the potential of, this would help protect. This would be your buffer between. And I don't know if there may very well be different thicknesses of foam. I mean, this is really thin. The felt obviously is very thin. This I picked up at, I believe it was Dollarama, and this is really thin. There's not much to this at all. The other thing I would give some consideration to as well is, if you're going to use one of these products, is how you're going to put it down. So if you were going to use glue, then I would want the depth of the product, the foam or the felt, to be thicker, just because you've got glue, that you wouldn't want it coming through. I don't think it would come through the foam, but I'm just sort of mentioning that out loud to you. So this is what I kind of thought could be our buffer, and maybe you have other ideas of what could be a buffer. I mean, there's cork board, and that's not the right term for what I'm thinking. I've got some cork over there that you could cut out, and again, that could be your buffer between your piece here and the flooring that you've got. So there are options out there for you, and I don't know, the stuff that I've got that's pre-cut for me that goes on the bottom of my chairs, I'm not sure how big you can get that, or if you could get it in like a sheet of it, so you could just cut out whatever shapes you needed. Now, that may not work for you, but they're just ideas that have been sort of flowing through my head, and I just thought I wanted to share them. I'm looking at some cardboard, not really cardboard, but what is separating my flake sheets that I've got, my foil sheets that I've got, and I'm thinking, well, maybe you could do that. You could cut something like that and put it underneath. So I'm sure there are options that are available to us. I'm all of a sudden thinking, if you were to cut out the bottom of a plastic plate, there's another idea. Now, that would slide. That's the only thing. It doesn't have any grip to it, and I would want something that has grip. I'm just throwing suggestions out there to you. So what I want to do is, I am going to put some UV resin in the bottom of this, and then once we've got that half decently cured up, then what we'll do is we'll take it out and we'll have a look and see how this came out. Now, the black has moved into the center a little bit, but we still have some spots. I'm hoping you can see where the red is. So that's your mold, the bottom, that will be the inside bottom of this. So it didn't, I'm guessing that when we take this out, you're not really going to see the black having sunk into this. I think you're going to just see it flat across. So let me get my gloves on, and we'll pour some UV resin onto that. I'm just going to blow what may be dust on it. I am using my magic resin, UV resin. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take the top right off of this. And we're just going to pour a thin layer on. And I think another reason why I would want to put a bottom on this, and we don't, like, I don't need to be doing this, you know, it may be a thick enough, you know, that we don't need to do this. I'm just sort of finishing it up. And then that would be another, as I was sort of starting to say, that would be another reason I would put a bottom on this, is because I am using UV resin versus 2-part epoxy. And I'm trying to find a stick of some sort to move this around. I think I'm going to have to put some more on. And I might even get my heat gun to kind of blow this about. I don't want a lot of this on here for sure. I'm coming to the conclusion. I went out and bought a very cheap pair of glasses from the dollar store, and I'm really kind of regretting it now. Some more of this out, and I'm going to go around the edges this time. I should put the lid back on it, but we'll see how we... just get it moving around. Now, I'm going to have to be careful because this is not a clear mold, with the stuff that's going sort of underneath, a little bit underneath the red, to make sure this does get properly cured. And I think I've come to the conclusion that I probably needed about 70 mils to have done this correctly. Like to have really like filled this up properly. So I'm going to have to make note of that in my book. All right. I'm going to cover this up now and let it settle for a few minutes. I think I've done a pretty decent job. I don't think it's right to top, and I apologize for lifting this up out of your view range, your range of view. But I'm trying just to get a better view of what we got going on here. I don't think I'm going to put any more UV resin in that. I'm just going to let that sit and sort of settle itself out for a moment. I want to make sure that doesn't sit inside of it. No, I think I'm good. So I'm going to let that sit for a couple of minutes. I'm going to cure it up, and then we will take it out together. That didn't take too long, did it? I actually, when I have the opportunity to use the sun, I use the sun as my UV light. For whatever, I just feel it has got to be the best UV light in the world. And when it is sunny here, like it is today, it's cool outside. Well, it's cold outside. I just prefer to use it. All right, so let's get this out and see how we did. So I have a bit of a lip around the side, and I'll show you that in a moment. Again, I'm not sure. Like, I've tried cutting before the sides, and yeah, that's still a little wet under there. I figured it might be, so I'm really glad I've got my gloves on. I've tried cutting like right around the edges of pieces before and ended up, you know, messing them up. So that's why I tend not to do it. And as I say, 70 grams probably would have done a much better job on this. So I've got some UV on my gloves, which I expect. So I want to be very careful pulling this out. So I'm going to just go like this because I'm going to need to clean up underneath that. And because it's the bottom, I really don't care if it does anything funky there. So I will clean the inside of that out so I get rid of that UV. And let's just get it off my fingers again. And what we're going to do very quickly and quietly, so you can see I've got a ring on that. Let's turn this upside down and throw it under the UV lamp. As I pull everything with it. And we'll do that and get it cured up better. I knew there'd probably be a little bit of that, and I'll clean up my mold off camera. So, anything exciting going on in anybody's world? Doing anything fun, creative, or just enjoying life? Which I know there are days when I struggle with that a whole bunch, enjoying life, but I am working on getting to a much better centered place and trying my best just to stay away from social media, because right now it isn't serving me any kind of purpose. Too much misinformation going around on so many different things that, as I've said to a lot of people on my personal Facebook page, check your facts. Check your facts on everything. All right. Okay. Now I have a bump here. Little bubble there. I'm just gonna, yeah, we're still a little sticky. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put it down on, I'll get a clean piece. Yeah, clean piece. And then we'll just do like this. So this is what we have here. And actually that turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to. I was a little concerned of how these flakes were actually gonna come out at the end of the day. Basically, the black is covering up most of the bottom of that. You can see some around the sides, but I think it's more, it didn't really go up that high. It's more of an illusion than it makes it look like it went up higher than what it has. But I think that looks really pretty. And my Made in Canada, that came out really cool. Actually, I really like that. Again, because I'm in Canada. And some of the imperfections that were on the original that I cast it from are showing up in here, which again, I expect that. This is fairly light. If I put glass in it, as was the thing I was thinking about in the first place, this would be heavier. But this isn't too bad from a weight perspective, which I like. So let me just bring it up to the camera. No, that way. There we go. So you can see it up close. So I think that turned out fairly decently. I do. So let me just, I don't really want to put something on the bottom, but we're going to anyways. So you could easily cover this, the bottom of this, with a weight. And like I said, it's just as a matter of protection against, the flooring you've got. Because I don't know what's going to happen with this. And it's something I could test out. But I think for myself, I definitely put something on the bottom of this. Just to protect the flooring and the coaster itself. Or you could use this for something else. You could put rings in that. You could put a necklace in that. Again, I mentioned that we could put, you know, a really thin coat of UV resin on the inside of that to cover up the Made in Canada and to smooth out the imperfections that are in the bottom of that. So, but that's it. Like I said, I had seen these coasters similar like this on another channel, and I thought, that's a really cool idea. Like if you wanted something different, you don't want your typical. And since doing this, it's got me thinking about if I could find smaller ones than this. So, like I said, the table, this came out, the original came out from under. Oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time speaking today. The pieces on the bottom, like the metal pieces on the bottom, they're probably about, I'd say about that diameter. So they're going to fit nicely in the inside of this. If I were thinking of making for chairs or whatnot, then I'd obviously want something a little smaller for them. And I guess the only sort of issue with chairs is that you move them around. So I'd have to have some way of securing them to the bottom of the chair. So I'm not 100% sure. And I'm not sure if some of them sort of, they go in as they go up on the chairs. Anyway, I thought this would be a cool little experiment to do, play around. I'm going to throw this under my Let's Resin and or put it back out up at my windowsill so the rest of this UV can set up. I'm going to take this little piece off here that's, oh, there we go. It's off. Well, that was easy peasy. And yeah, so just an idea. I'm always looking out for new ideas on things we can do together. So maybe you can see, I just want to see if you can see the pink. So you can, I don't know if you can see the pink through there, through the bottom of that. So it did leave, some clear, not a lot, but it did leave some clear. And it really didn't soak down that far into that piece. But hey, you want something different? Here you go. Anyway, have a great day, whatever you get up to. Be creative, find the joy in your life, because it is incredibly important that we find our center, our sense of joy in today's world. So, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Take care, and bye for now.